Guys, today I'm going to teach you guys how to do a return setup on a RSX using a stock fuel rail. Alright, so I'm going to go over all the steps to do this. Obviously, first things first, what we're going to do is we're going to take off the stock feed line. It's right here and right in here. That's the first thing you want to do. You can move some sensors out, some plugs out the way if you want to have them unplugged. Also have this unplugged from the valve cover, so just to create some space. All right, so that's the first step, guys. So we took the stock hose off. This is the stock hose, as you can see. And the stock hose is basically replaced with this unit right here. It's basically a fuel pressure regulator and a couple of fittings and a lot more fittings on this side. And these last fittings are designed to work with the stock fuel rail right here and the stock fuel line. So that's what it basically allows you to run the stock fuel rail with a return system. So it'll run normally like a normal fuel pressure regulator will run all the way through, and then the bottom is the return. And obviously you got your vacuum port for your 1-to-1 fuel pressure, and that's how it basically works. All right, but I'm gonna keep going with the install so you guys can see how everything's done. So there you go. So you guys can see the ports again, right there. And this side is for the fuel line side, and this is the fuel rail side. And I'm gonna show you guys the fittings that it comes with too. All right, guys. So this fitting right here goes on this side. It screws in. I'll show you that once it's on the car itself. So, and this side is just like the normal fuel line. This is basically clips in just like that. It's a quick release. So I'm gonna start fiddling with everything so you guys can see how it looks. All right, so I just want to show you guys. The fitting goes in. You have to push it all the way back. You'll hear it click. Once it's clicked, then you know the fitting is all the way in. Guys, it's very important that you get, if you can see it, that push tab has to be behind that part of the fuel line, the fuel rail, sorry. Okay? And basically you see the fuel pressure regulator. Everything's connected already on that side. And on this side is the tough part. Well, it's not tough, but it's a little different. You slide this piece. You can't do it on camera, but you're gonna slide it in here, and then it goes into here. You see it? And it'll go in right through there. Fuel pressure regulator. Going right through there, and you just screw it in nice hand tight, okay? Alright, so this is how everything looks installed on this end. And you follow through, and that's installed on this end. And the return line will be right there. It might be tricky to put that on while it's in there still, but it can be done. It's not that hard. If you have trouble, you could take everything off again after you tested everything and you see how you want everything to be, and you can start attaching the fuel return hose and route it through underneath the car in the best way you want it to be. So I'm going to continue with the install and show you my progress. Alright, so I had to disconnect it to connect the bottom drain hose. So just make sure you get it nice and tight. So that's where I ran my hose. Okay, so you guys can see. Once you have it all connected again from the bottom, you can go ahead and reconnect it. And that's basically it on this side of the car. Everything else is basically routing from underneath the car and the fuel pump. And I'm gonna also go over the fuel pump install as well. So don't worry, guys. And oh yeah, one more thing. You have to make sure you have a vacuum hose for your 1-to-1, right? Especially, for all your boosted applications. Okay, guys? Here's where I got my port from. Obviously, I'll tie that up. But that's basically how you install what a lot of people call the no-nonsense fuel return setup. Street Factory will offer a kit for you, all you RSX guys, to make it a little easier for you guys. Alright, so here you go. Alright, guys, so this is everything installed, so you guys can just see. That's where the gauges, you can see the return line going all the way through. See, I can't line a flight back there, but there you go. And that's where it connects to the stock fuel line. so now I have a return system on a stock fuel rail for 1000 cc's and have 1-to-1. Got my vacuum line connected. Have 1-to-1 fuel pressure with, going boost. So every pound of boost I go up, you lose, you're supposed to lose 1 psi of fuel pressure, but with the 1-to-1, every time you lose a pound of fuel pressure, you'll gain it with the pound of boost. So there you go. So now you can run all the boost you want. And now I'm gonna start jacking up the car and route the line, the fuel return on the bottom of the car, and start taking off the fuel pump. And I'm gonna show you guys the progress on that as well. Sorry, there's not a lot of lighting in here, but the first thing you want to do is you want to take out these 1, 2, 3, 4 Phillips screws. All right, so that's the first step to removing your fuel pump. Oh, all right, you got some light from the phone. All right, so once you get all the 4 screws, this will be connected right in here. All you have to do is push down on this tab, pull up, and be really careful. All right, guys, it's not too hard, just be careful. All right, now the next step is you're gonna want to disconnect the stock fuel line. All right, so start doing that. All right, once you have the stock fuel line disconnected, you're gonna grab a mallet and a little pry bar. You're gonna push against the edges, a little bit at a time for the locking ring to come loose. All right, guys, be very careful. Do not damage it. It's just plastic. If you don't want to use something metal to damage this, you can also use a piece of wood if you have a piece of wood. But I'm just gonna use this. All right. Once you have the locking ring off, it's off. Just place it to the side. And if you want, you might want to clean up all this nonsense before you lift this off the fuel tank. Alright, guys, so just clean it up, and once you clean it up, you should be able to just lift it and finesse it all the way out. So this is the fuel pump housing. It's not too hard to take apart. Just be very, very careful. This stuff is very brittle. It's been soaking in fuel for God knows how long. I mean, how many year old your car is. That's how many years it's been soaking in fuel. You do not want to break any of these tabs, alright, guys? So just be really, really careful taking it apart, okay? Alright. This is the fuel pump cage all taken apart. You got the tabs, you got plugs that you got to unplug, a whole bunch of shit. So, unplug everything, just be really careful, and basically this is the fuel pump housing right here. And I'm gonna put Dutch Works. Alright. So, and then once we get the new fuel pump in this cage, I'm gonna teach you guys how to drill and tap and all this kind of stuff with a fuel return, because we still have a fuel return line we gotta put in. And we also have to disable the stock, where is it? This is actually the stock fuel pressure regulator right here. That needs to be disabled. So we'll disable that as well. Alright, here's the new fuel pump and cage. Really easy. Just got to make sure you see this, it's called the spacer. That spacer is originally on here. You got to take that spacer off of there and put on the new pump along with an O-ring. It's very easy, and you got to put the little snap ring back. I haven't done that yet, but I'll be doing that in a second. But now we're going to focus our attention on the casing for the fuel return line. So once you got everything into the cage, the stock fuel pressure regulator that goes in here, that needs to be blocked off. And I just blocked it off with a screw with sealant. Alright, so it's very important to block that off. There's many ways to block it. Some people crush the spring. There's so many things you can do. Whichever way you feel is the safest, go with that route. And then you can just put it right back in. Alright? It's very simple. It just needs to be blocked off because this acts as a bleed valve. That spring in there is set to open at a certain pressure, just like a wastegate spring on a turbo. So once your fuel pressure reaches a certain point, it starts opening and bleeding, and fuel bleeds through, and that will defeat the purpose of that. So this needs to be blocked off, disabled, or removed altogether if you want to do it that way. Up to you, whichever way you feel is safest, you could do it. So once you got that blocked off, you can go ahead, reinstall it, and you're good to go. And then, like I said, we still gotta drill a hole. This is where our return fitting is gonna go. Sorry, right here. It's gonna go right in there. So I'm gonna get this piece installed again, and then I'll come right back. Once you drill out that hole, as you can see, there's a hole in there now. See that hole? You're gonna take his fitting. I have it tight enough that I can screw it in, and you also want to make sure you have 2 washers and a locking nut to go along with it. Okay, you can use either nylon like these, or we got some metal ones too. I think I'm gonna try the nylon ones. Alright guys, and here's the fuel return line. As you can see, and we're gonna send it up right in there. Oh shit, okay. So it's kind of hard to tell where it goes, but you slide it in a little bit and that's where you can get it in. Alright guys, well, here's the fuel return line. Nice and simple. Make sure you zip tie it up or something, and it follows up in there. You can sneak it in and then you go on the top and pull it through. Alright, nice and simple. There you go. Alright, and basically that's how your fuel return should look like. There you go. Fuel return, the normal feed, and you're done. Alright guys, well, that was the Street Factory version of the no nonsense fuel return. So here's just another look at it. If anybody wants to take a look, there you go. Stock fuel rail. There you go guys.